It really is. It's a buy any dip type of day or type of market lately. It's crazy. I just went live, so welcome to the show, Bob. I'm gonna just turn it over to you here. I mean, we haven't been live here for really. Well, I guess we were live last week, but we're well into the new year now. January 14th, market's been really strong, but I know we've talked about how each individual stock has kind of had their own trading journey, and some of them have had nice little corrections and are starting their climb again. Others are still correcting hard. I mean, we were talking about Plug a little bit yesterday. That's taking a little bit of a breather today, but Plug and Tesla are two charts that have stood out to me as stocks that might really correct hard if the market turns. But just wondering what you've been kind of keeping an eye on and what your thoughts are in general about where we're at with this market.
Well, I think you got two different markets going on here. You have the speculating market, which, we've been following all the names in that. And then institutions that are trying to figure out what a stimulus is going to mean and what a Biden administration is going to mean. And those stocks have been extremely strong and continue to be. And sorry about that. That's Jeff calling me every 10 minutes. I think that's the real trade going on behind the scenes. And then the speculating market is a separate market that the Robinhood guys are involved in. And the EV market is part of it, but it's also something that people think is going to be helped by the Biden administration. So there's probably some institutional interest there. And then you got the side game of Bitcoin and what that's creating and a lot of different cross currents. But I think the market is solid because money still has to go somewhere. Bonds are going to be atrocious for anyone who is in a long bond over the last 2 months going forward. And that money should start coming out of that, either go into cash or into stocks. So it's just more reason for money to go into stocks.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I like getting on here is we're all so diverse when it comes to the different areas of the market we're all investing in. And Dad, I mean, you've been super disciplined with not getting caught up in the noise of some of these SPAC and electric vehicle stocks, even though some of them probably are.
I played them as day trading kind of things or swing trading, but not to the extent that you guys are playing them.
I've been trying to actually. Going on silent over here.
Unbelievable. Dad does not know how to work technology. That's why he's not in Bitcoin. He still doesn't understand it.
Yeah, I've been trying to actually stay clear of most of the SPACs just until the dust settles and we get more of a handle on which ones are going to be good and which ones aren't. But I am in a few. Like I know I've talked about BFT before on here. I like that one, and I like SSPK, which we're all in, which is Weed Maps. And it's definitely interesting. Dad, you've been big on GM and Ford, and both have been such great picks for you. I haven't owned any GM.
I never bought GM, but that obviously has been I think it's a bigger percentage winner than Ford over the last couple of months. But Ford's been amazing, and it continues to go up. And you could day trade within it, but I would keep a long position. I mean, it's a great day trader in addition to just staying long. I mean, if it breaks through 10.20 here, it looks like it's got another 20, 30 cents in it for a day trade. Who knows?
Yeah, I saw something earlier just saying how Ford is back in double digits for the first time in 18 months. So, it seems like people are loving Ford. They shut down their manufacturing in Brazil, and it seems like people love that. And then, you also have, I know we talk about the gaming stocks a lot on here, but we got to talk about them a little bit. First off, DraftKings feels like it's starting to act well again. They had that offering. It couldn't really get through those levels, but I know right now at the moment it's below 55, but it kind of feels like it's starting to break out a little.
And from a chart basis, it really looks interesting. And I feel like everyone's on that same page. So that's kind of holding it back, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get there anyway.
I mean, Sheldon Adelson died, so that roadblock is gone. He was the big proponent of getting online gambling being illegal for his own purposes. So he's
and I like Las Vegas Sands. I bought a little bit yesterday, and I think that and Wynn going forward are going to be big winners because China is going to open up with the vaccines helping and everything else. And that's huge net income for those guys. And then Las Vegas Sands, it's possible they may get sold or merge. That wouldn't be a surprise either.
And how about Fubo? We talked about them last week, and sure enough.
Well, it's interesting, the Fubo story, because, the whole gambling industry is starting to remind me a little bit of the electric vehicle space. And when it just comes to, like, how many of them can there be that all succeed, Fubo, there's a lot of people out there that think Fubo is, heading to 8. And then
are those the same people that thought Tesla was going bankrupt? I think they're in the same camp.
They probably are in the same camp. But, like, it's interesting because, look, Fubo yesterday or 2 days ago announced that they were acquiring a sports betting app. And when you look into the sports betting app, it's in its very early stages. It's not even, a live app yet. It's just prototype app. So it's a very small acquisition. And a lot of people look at it like, Fubo, how are they going to really compete with the DraftKings and the Pens of the world? And I guess the argument is live streaming while gambling
is going to be an absolute game changer for a moneymaker. Well, the argument is they have so many customers already. You turnkey them into gamblers, which people are naturally. We know where the immersion experience is heading with viewership. We already see you can bet on predictions in sports. It's going to be the same thing with people watching television. So anyone that Fubo, you guys heard me last week talk about this. It's a home run long term. It's going to be volatile short term.
I love it as a trading stock. I've been playing it both directions. I will say, there's a couple ways to look at it. One, it got attacked by shorts right before a huge insider lockup, and it got slammed in such a broken stock kind of way. And then they had the investor conference 2 days ago. And the fact that it's been nothing but red the last 2 days after a big investor conference, you would think there'd be some big buyers stepping in here.
Well, I was one of them. I bought it under 33 today, even more. When it got down to 32.80, I went hard.
Well, it's definitely an interesting stock to follow. Jin, don't know. We do see you in the comment box. Jiznu. So shout out. But Fubo is just a great stock to follow. You got a lot of people.
It reminds me of Roku, Dan. We talked about this a few years ago. It's a very similar trajectory of the early innings of Roku, where there was, are these guys real? How are they going to compete? Roku, it was the Amazon narrative. Fubo, it's kind of like, how are they going to separate themselves from DraftKings and Penn? Well, DraftKings and Penn don't have streaming going on. Maybe for all we know, Fubo gets rolled up by one of those companies when their platforms evolve a bit. So who knows?
It's definitely a stock you got to have on your watch list because it's wild. And,
it's holding a little, just out of curiosity.
It's similar to GameStop in the sense that you have enough people that are short it that if they're wrong, GameStop, it's crazy because you see these short squeezes happen and then you kind of figure, well, that's got to be it. The shorts have to be out of it. But I think that happened on a small scale and then they almost reloaded over the last few weeks because yesterday that stock went up like 80%.
Well, what you're seeing is you're actually now seeing long-term buyers in the stock finally. It's a combo of the short squeeze and optimism around their narrative now with Ryan Cohen, the Chewy founder, on their board officially last week. Which you guys know, we talked about this weeks ago. that was inevitably going to happen. And now you actually have, I even heard yesterday on this Clubhouse app, there's still people that don't even understand what they're doing. This kid I heard talking about, oh, they're closing all these stores. I'm a huge gamer. They must be going bankrupt. It's like, what are you, hiding under a rock? Like, that's what they're doing purposely. So I think GameStop, if you believe in the internet and the future of gaming online, where we see these gamers getting scholarship for being in front of a computer, it's hard not to like GameStop with how you're looking at their leadership now.
Cautious is the word, though. For that.
Well, I got out of all my GameStop today. I just, on this pop, I sold all of it because I'm waiting now for a market correction of some kind. It seems like it's gotten a bit crazy.
Did you sell any Beyond?
No, Dad, what are you kidding? I already got out of enough of the Beyond position.
Beyond's having an amazing day.
For good reason.
They might be starting in a climb again. Like, that's been beaten to
You can tell by the chart. It's starting to climb again.
Well, yesterday, there's been a lot of call option buying and Beyond the last 24 hours.
Those are all red meat eaters. Like, anyone that's betting against that just is kind of holding on.
Are they the same people that don't want to buy Bitcoin?
I mean, hey, Dad, I'm sorry for anyone. They all have their Kleenex with them as we speak for missing that boat. But
Bitcoin's interesting because this is where, we've talked about Thomas Lee before. He's the dude that randomly comes on CNBC and works for Fundstrat and has really predicted all of 2020 to a T. And it's been really impressive, all of his predictions. And he came out and predicted like a month ago that Bitcoin would race to 40,000 and then have a 50% correction before going up like 300%. And he thought the market would also have a gut-wrenching correction at some point in the first quarter before continuing to rally hard. And the question is, obviously, this guy's not going to be right 100% of the time. Maybe he is. I don't know. But you got to assume he's randomly going to be a little off. So is Bitcoin about to double top and this is a great sell? Or did Bitcoin go down to 20,000 or 30,000? It was a great buying opportunity, and now it's just going to take off.
It's about, Dan, you said the former. It's going to sell off more here. And, I'm a huge Bitcoin long-term bull, but this thing is going to be coming down a lot from here before it tears up more. I can guarantee it. And, Dad, I sold off at the top last week. I got out about 12.5% of my position. If Bitcoin goes below 24K, you'll see me buy more. No more. Besides that, Ethereum is where my head's at right now for a better return based on the levels here. I love Bitcoin long term. I agree with Thomas Lee and on the market. I don't know when this is happening, but I was telling Dan last night that I was in margin a good amount up until this morning. That narrative changed today. Something told me when I woke up, I've got to shift gears here. Dan was like, what do you own, 50 stocks? And I'm like, no way. Then I looked, I'm like, whoa, I'm a bit too much exposed here. So I shifted gears. And now I agree with Thomas Lee. I mean, he's way smarter than me with stocks. That guy's a genius. But I do think we're heading for a market pullback. I don't know if it's next week or next month, but I'd rather have cash on the sidelines than be playing catch up.
Going back to Bitcoin for a second, there was a great article about how many hundreds of millions of dollars are lost because people don't know their passwords.
I saw that.
And that's, I guess, the reason you want to own GBTC instead of Bitcoin or something similar.
All mine, thanks to you, Dad, is in GBTC. That's where all my Bitcoin is. My Ethereum's in Coinbase.
But they give you 10 shots of your password. And if you get to 10 and you don't hit it, your money's gone.
I mean, you don't deserve to have your money anymore if you can't figure out a password to begin with for where you have a lot of holdings. Those people are just stupid.
What happened to the good old traditional password reset option?
Well, Dan, that's what it's interesting you bring that up because that's been the narrative now where these big Bitcoin people that have been in since day one, they want it to be commonplace, make it less friction. The fact that that's even a thing is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
you can't find your stuff.
If I forgot my password, I'd be able to do a password reset.
Well, and that's the argument right now of what needs to happen. It needs to become more user friendly for that to hit another level where people even feel comfortable getting into it. Because who wants to have an investment where you're worried about never getting it back? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, so I have a question, Dad. If you're someone like around Mike and my age and you're sitting 50% in cash right now, are you just waiting, or are you putting at least a little of it to work, just knowing too much of it is?
I would put some to work. You just got to not be in all the speculative stuff when you do it, because that's the stuff that's going to get hit hard. There's plenty of stocks that are still, very low PE compared to the market.
Dad, it sounds like you're in the camp of the market correct hard, and you'll see the Microsofts, Amazons, Apples of the world possibly not go down at all because they've already been.
I think Apple and Microsoft also can go down, and there's some correlation, and I don't know exactly how it works, but as bond rates move higher, those stocks are under a little bit of pressure, and all of the high PE or price to sales stocks get hurt when bond rates go higher. And
so you gotta keep an eye on bond rates.
If you look at the chart of the long bond or the 10-year, rates are going to move to 150, maybe even 2%. So that's going to be putting constant pressure on the high-flying techs.
Yeah, I saw, because I've been long Twilio for a while, and I'm wondering if it's getting close to just full-on ringing the register. I saw there was a lot of big put buying in Twilio, like millions of dollars in premiums today for just, 2022, far out. But it was obviously either someone hedging really, really big or someone making the bet that tech's going to have a really big correction. They were buying the 300 puts. Twilio's at 380. They got an upgrade to 425 today. And, the way I'm looking at this is the way I'm going to play it is if the market does sell off by 10, 15%, I think I'm going to use that to just get into the names that have been up hundreds of percent over the last year, because those will probably sell off the most. But then I think they'll probably be the ones that do the best again in 2021 if the market sells off.
Well, that's why I'm waiting to get in the Fastleys and Twilios for this market pullback.
And where, when I was talking to Dad and you really dive into each stock, I wonder, is the market going to pull back the way people think? Or when Twilio went from 370 to 330 and the market's kind of in neutral, that was really shitty for Twilio. And then it continued its rally, and now it's at 380 all-time highs. Fastly went from 110 down to 79. That's a big gut-wrenching decline, even though it didn't happen overnight. I own a lot of Fastly. I was sitting there watching it happen, and now I'm sitting there and Fastly's at 91.69, but still $20 off of its highs from 2 weeks ago. So no one's really talking about the fact that, market as a whole hasn't had this painful correction, but it's tough to find a stock that hasn't corrected by at least 8%, maybe some as much as 25% in the last month. Every single one of them, really. Except maybe
that's what's so exceptional about this market is there's always it doesn't seem to want, there's too much cash out there to just go down completely, which will happen at some point. But right now the money's just shifting.
And then I wonder if a Thomas Lee behind closed doors is also possibly altering his strategy, where he's like, okay, I thought we were going to get some 10 to 15% correction. We haven't in the markets, but we have in a lot of the stocks that have led us here. And, that's starting to be how I look at it. And
look at Facebook, Amazon, these behemoths, they haven't done much in a long time. Look at Facebook and Amazon the last few months, their charts.
Yeah, I like Amazon here because it hasn't done much. And all that time of kind of churning and doing nothing, it builds up. And it could obviously take a turn down again, but I think that's probably as solid as you're going to find in the tech area.
And Facebook, too, when you think about it, we know the narrative with them. Anytime they're a bad actor on the world stage, it sells off. this whole news with Twitter and Facebook around Trump being banned. Let's be real. For Twitter, that's a different story. Facebook, when I actually look at their fundamentals here, it's a great buying opportunity. I'm already long a ton of Facebook, but I'm seeing it here around the 250 levels. And I'm looking at the chart and it's just like, okay, the narrative on Facebook is about to shift again in a positive catalyst with VR and AR and live streaming video and WhatsApp monetization. And none of that has really been talked about yet. So I think you're going to look back at these as great buying opportunities for Amazon and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Facebook is they don't even need a catalyst. They're going to have their earnings here in the next few weeks, and the earnings are probably going to just speak for themselves because they're just yeah, I think so too. And you're also getting an opportunity right now after Snap banned Trump. Snap has been definitely the better performer in the last year, and honestly, I think that'll be the same deal in 2021. Just because when you look at the market cap and the growth that Snap's experiencing, it's like they're in the phase that Facebook was in 6 to 7 years ago. I obviously own both, but definitely this is your chance to get into Snap. It fell under 50 for a minute. I don't know if just for a minute. It might have been under there for a while. Right now, it's hovering at 50. The stock's going to keep chugging up, and it's
Dan, I love where your head's at. I'm actually going to buy Snap today. I love where your head's at there because I've been waiting for an entry point in Snap, and it seems like it. Guys, pull up BNGO.
There's been tons of call option buying in that stock today. BNGO.
That's the one I told you guys. Bionome, the genome stock.
Yeah, all of those genome stocks are through the roof today.
I actually sold all of my BNGO an hour before we got on here because it was just over bought levels. And, it really, those RSI indicators are really great for getting out on the right days when you see them, the RSI over 90.
BNGO, I mean, that and Givo have been two that I have on my radar where if the market corrects, those two could.
Givo is another. I got out of that yesterday. I'll be buying back, and Givo is going to be a great long-term play. It's run up too much. So I think, Dan, you made a great point with the whole speculation around the market pullbacks. I think what we could see is a lot of speculative stocks falling off a cliff short term. Even these gene editing stocks we're all in have been phenomenal. They've run up like crazy. I took a little profits again today off the top of those. I mean, I don't even own that much, but it's crazy how much they've run up after running up a ton. And this is early innings.
That's where it's literally like every stock is having its own journey. Like Fubo, people probably lost a fortune in that stock. There were buyers at 65 that watched it free fall to 24.
Yeah, that must have been brutal for them.
That's what I mean. Like when you talk about the high flyers, most of them go through that QuantumScape, same thing. It's not like these stocks that go up 100, 150, 200% don't then get smacked the next week.
And then once they get smacked and everyone's afraid, that's when I wet in my beak a little. Like Fubo here, I'm loving. Because I really do believe in what they're doing. And it got beaten down. I wanted to wait again to buy more after the dust settled on that run up a couple days ago. And it's like, all right.
It's a great day trading stock. I'm still not sure if I even buy into the story because I think DraftKings is just, why can't I watch a game and use DraftKings if that's what I'm used to? Why do I need it all? I don't know.
Keep in mind, Fubo has these people converting from cable to streaming. So once you already have them paid in for a monthly subscription, think about the damage you can do there with peer-to-peer gambling. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll also say Fubo is probably days away from doing an offering. And who knows how that's going to impact their stock.
Any one of these high flyers is a day away from doing an offering.
Yeah, but then speaking of an offering, then you pull up an NNDM, which you guys should, it's down big today, but they just did an offering this morning. I know they brought that up on the Trader Show. I brought this stock up to you guys a couple of times. I own a bit of it. And it hasn't, and this is a positive. Neil brought this up this morning on the Day Trader live show. Look out for that later today because, it's interesting. It didn't really make a move down after the offering.
What's the ticker?
NNDM. Nano Dimension Ltd. It's N as in Nick, N as in Nick, D as in Dan, M as in Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's down like 10%. Yeah, it's all how people...
I grabbed it at 10.20 today.
Yeah, the offerings are interesting because some of them get eaten up and the stock goes higher right away, and then some of them just can't get out of their own
But it's
way.
also interesting, like that popped hard yesterday. The offering happened today, and after the offering, it's kind of had been in this holding pattern. It hasn't gone down.
Where was the stock offered?
I think right around here, actually.
And what do they do?
It's, you know, one of these futuristic types of companies, 3D printing with construction and fabric. And I mean, yeah, when you look at the 3D printing space, it's not speculative. That's happening. Our buddy Leon's cousin owns Formlabs in Massachusetts, which is a behemoth in that world. That's just starting to pick up steam. We talk about getting ahead of narratives. 3D printing has been behind closed doors building up momentum for years. And you're going to see that being one of these gene editing and psychedelic stock type sectors in the years to come. So this is one of the plays on that.
Yeah, I mean, Hewlett Packard's probably the best way to go with 3D printing.
Well, they could roll up someone like this.
Yeah.
That's the thing. These companies, that's another sexy appeal, is the notion of a roll up.
Well, look, the good news is when they do an offering, they raise a lot of cash. So they're in much better shape afterwards. The bad news is it's diluting all the shareholders. The question is, which is preferable at the time?
Then you also have, though, the people that were shorting a stock thinking it's going bankrupt out of the equation, and they could be, you know, short squeezes could be popping up from that too, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, they have cash now? Shit.
How about Virgin Galactic getting a huge pop after there's like an announcement of space travel ETF being started?
Yeah, and that's a technical thing, just supply and demand.
I actually, like, this is where, so I signed up, I told you guys about this before, this service called Cheddar Flow, and I'm just kind of dabbling with it, but it basically shows you it shows you all option activity, and you could filter it out to only look at unusual option activity, and that's what I do, is unusual option activity. It's called Cheddar Flow, and there's tons of orders that are coming through every day that are unusual. But then occasionally you'll see orders that just continue for the same name. And yesterday that was happening with Virgin Galactic. And I decided to just buy some Virgin Galactic just to kind of go along with whatever was happening. And after hours it got announced and the stock was up huge. And I sold it after hours way lower than where it was at today. I don't know where it's at now. Yeah, I sold it at like 29 and change, but it was awesome because it was a huge move. And it was thanks to this Cheddar Flow site. And it seems like it's kind of a common theme, except the thing that's tough about it is there's so many names that come up on here. You got to kind of pick and choose like what's going to move and what's not. You know what I mean? Because they're not always right. So it's interesting.
What was that purchase today of Plug up at, you said the 90s for 2023?
Yeah, exactly. For January 2023, someone bought like $1.8 million premium of call option contracts for Plug, which, you know, I think goes back to what I was saying, where sure, Plug might see a 30% correction out of nowhere, but it's probably then going to go way higher. And that's when I'll get back into Plug instead of like trying to find the next Plug, find the next Tesla. Like I want to get into Plug and get into Tesla. And if there is some big correction, I'm going to, you know, hope that that's not like the ends of those stocks forever. And when you
that's obviously like a hedge fund making a bet that Plug is going to be somewhere around $150 or $200 a couple of years from now, and a leverage of buying it at 31 rather than where it's trading. It's not even that great of a difference, but it,
no, I know.
It's a very interesting way to play it from both sides. Because if you're long the stock at 60 and you sell and pick up 31 points in premium, you know, you're kind of not worried about it dropping 10, 20%, even 30%.
I'm a proud owner of Snapchat, baby.
Nice.
48.98.
And that's where it's like Snapchat's another example of, but I'll go back to Plug for a second, just because when you look at 2020 and you hear like, oh, Plug was up 400% in 2020, or eventually you fast forward 5 years, or you look at Tesla and it's like Tesla's been up 8,000% in 10 years. It's like, is that it? 8,000, or is it going to be 13,000? And you know what I mean? It's like these stocks that are these big growth stocks have probably so much more room to run on the upside that I'd be worth millions and millions of dollars if I let some of these positions just ride. Like we're talking about Plug, Penn,
Fiverr.
That was the other one. Exactly. Like these are stocks that go up 10, 20 times in a year, and then you're trying to find the next one. But the reality is those stocks are all probably just getting started on a much bigger run over the next decade. And, you know,
I don't know about Tesla.
Well, I'm just saying.
I do know. Someone brought up a great point about Tesla. It's one of those things you don't know what Elon Musk has in his wheelhouse. That guy could have 3 ideas that he hasn't even come up with yet.
First idea is I'm going to quit. And then the stock drops 500 points.
Yeah, you've been saying this with Elon Musk for the last decade. Guys like that don't quit until they're dead, and he probably already knows how to avoid that.
I think Elon Musk has gotten to a point in the last 6 months where he knows he has such a loyal cult-like stock base that, like, it used to be, he used to like kind of messing around, and now he's like, damn, I need to protect the hundreds of millions of people that have put their life savings into Tesla. And it seems like he's taking it a little bit more serious, really, you know, been thanking his shareholders. You could tell he's
a great showman, man. He knows how to play that narrative like no other, that guy. He knows on both ends.
Well, true, but he's taking it more seriously because he knows how overvalued the company is.
I completely disagree, Dad. That's not overvalued at all. It's probably undervalued. That's
he even sent that notice to his employees being like, we need to figure out how to cut costs and this, and this, or you'll see our stock get hit like a sledgehammer.
That's to me a great buying opportunity. That guy is not Tesla. It's hard to not, and I'm not even in it, which is annoying. I'm going to buy Tesla whenever there's an actual market pullback. I'll be a Tesla holder ongoing because it's just anytime it's down, you're almost like, oh man, I got to get in on this now.
And then the question is Vuzi in that category of a stock that's just getting started? Bob, you put that stock on our radar, so you tell me. I mean, and honestly, I'm just looking at the chart for the first time in a while here. It's holding up at these elevated levels in a way where it looks like it could go way higher now. And
it's an interesting chart. And look, the only thing I'm negative about Vuzi is the way they promote their own stock. Like, it seems like anytime the stock has a big drop, suddenly there's news out coming from the company. And then the stock jumps up and then kind of gives back. But look, they have glasses that are protecting people against COVID-19, and they got a lot of things going on in the medical field. So who knows?
Aren't they also doing things beyond medical? Like I saw they formed a partnership with Snapchat a couple of weeks ago. It seems like they're kind of all over the place.
They're kind of all over the place. They'll probably have to raise money like everyone else. But look, these stocks have a runway, right?
Yeah, and then, you know, another stock that's been on my radar, I know we've talked about it a little.
Now, Ford is right at its highs here. It'd be interesting to see if it pops.
See it happen. But BlackBerry, ticker BB. I don't know any, but it seems like there's starting to be a lot of people buying this up.
Having a hell of a day.
I used to own it.
I used to have the phone. I think there's a lot of people out there that think they're making a big comeback with phones. And I don't really know what's going on, but there's been a lot of call option buying. The stock went up big and then came back down, and now it's going back up.
It's a collaboration with Amazon Web Services. I think that's what this news is all from, this momentum. So it's almost like, what's up?
What's going on with that? I haven't looked into that.
So they worked out a collaboration in December with Amazon Web Services. Basically, this is all based on the Waterloo-based tech company having its QNX software, which is embedded in over 175 million vehicles around the world. So it seems like there's a lot of synergy with that. And Yeah, I mean, BlackBerry went from being a company that was like ancient history. Now they're working on applying machine learning to generate predictive insights and influences for automakers for in-vehicle experiences. Naturally, that hooks into Amazon Web Services. You've got a narrative of a growth story here heading into the year. So that's what we're talking about.
I wonder if that narrative's just getting started, or if it's still early. You know,
I think it is just getting started, Dan.
Another
it's cybersecurity too. When you think about that world and what we've seen in the EV space, we see machine learning. I mean, when you could be a synergy for behemoths in that, it seems like BlackBerry has technology that is very valuable now. So I don't see how this is fluff. It seems like it's gaining momentum for good reason.
No, for sure. And then, I've been looking at a couple of Chinese stocks because it seems like things are starting to simmer down there. And they announced they're not going to do the delistings. So Momo is interesting because that's a dating site. And I used to kind of look at it a little. I've never actually been in it.
Yeah, we went over that a couple months ago. Remember the date being an undervalued play?
Yesterday I saw some call option buying in it. So I started looking at it and I realized it came all the way down to its 50-day and then came right above it. And I don't know. I'm kind of thinking this could be a really interesting buy here for a much bigger move.
I love where your head's at with there. I mean, sex sells and it's basically the Match.com of China.
How does it compare in size to Match with number of users?
What's that?
I'm going to have to do more homework on that. Dad's asking, is it bigger than Match when it comes to how big they are with users in Asia?
I believe it is.
Yeah, I think they're really big, especially
in massive, this company. And that's the thing. That goes back to what we were talking about in Arizona a bit, the distrust with China. I almost look at that as a buying opportunity because this company is not going anywhere but up. What are they going to delist it? I think that it got beaten down after that Luckin Coffee crap last year and just the whole Trump China thing. This is a phenomenal stock. I don't see what the negative catalyst is here.
Well, there must be something because it's dropped in half.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was distrust with China.
It's definitely come down a lot. It even started to come down a lot before then. But, it looks like ever since
it's come down 70% from the top.
Yeah. But then, it kind of looked like it maybe formed a nice little base just above 13. And now it's obviously a lot higher than 13. But I don't know. I'm thinking this thing might be starting a bigger uptrend, especially when you combine the chart with seeing big options being bought in it. And that's obviously why it's gotten the lift the last couple of days. But I'm just wondering if that's got a bigger move. And then JD.com is the other one that I've had my eyes on, which ticker just JD. I already own Alibaba. It's just one of my long-termers.
I'm looking at Ford's volume. It's really interesting because if you look at how much traded right below this level compared to the total volume, it's unbelievable. Take a look at 10, 17, 16, 15, and 14. It's like half the volume in the stock.
Yeah. So what, you think this thing's about to take off?
Well, I mean, whoever is selling it, is selling tons, and the buyers are just eating through it. So
meaning once you get through that seller.
Yeah, if the seller gets to be the point where they run out of stock, this thing can have a vacuum up to 11.
Yeah, another stock that could really, really move huge this afternoon in either direction is Fubo. Just got back above 34.
I think you'll see it go reverse up. That's why I bought more under $33. I was just seeing it was beaten down to a pulp. The daily chart, the RSI was down at 20. And, I don't really see that sell-off seemed a bit severe.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with that sell-off. It completely basically filled the gap from that huge pop that it had 2 days ago. So it was almost like the most healthy thing ever for that stock.
Exactly. That's why I like it.
It probably caused a lot of shorts to cover and a lot of people who look at technicals to go long. And now if it gets above 35, I mean, it might bring out the real big guns. And this thing, who knows?
I'm right here, baby.
But then again, this is also the level where it could easily get smacked down again. So that's what I'm curious to see.
I think that just narrative is too sexy to ignore. And we're in this FOMO world where when you think about streaming and gambling, when that starts getting talked about, it's tough to ignore that.
Well, it's interesting because, like, I saw the Canadian show. They put out a note this morning saying that there were rumors that they were doing a sports betting deal with the NBA. And then I go back in my head, and all I've been seeing is one announcement after the next of DraftKings doing these deals with the NBA. So it's like, how many different sports betting companies could have?
Man, that's the value, though, when you have a streaming service already, as Fubo does, and you have subscribers that you can easily have a synergy with a pro sport. That's the thing. Like I
also saw yesterday Amazon was bidding for the rights for soccer.
Well, Amazon already has NFL, keep in mind, with Amazon Prime. We've seen them roll that out the last year, where you have the last couple of years now. They have games.
Maybe Amazon will buy Fubo.
They easily could. And that's the thing. Fubo, to me, either gets acquired or they're going to just be their own behemoth like a Netflix has become. I don't see how that's a negative play. I think it's a great anchor. At least own a little of it. We went over this last week before this pop. I told you I love Fubo before hearing all this rumor.
Shocked. Wow, Uber's really selling off hard here.
I sold all my Uber today at the top. I'm out.
Are you still in BHP?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, though, should I get out of it? It's run up so crazy.
No.
Maybe buy more on a dip. I also just sold my Bank of America, Dad, after that, a hell of a run up.
I wouldn't sell that either.
Banks blew the hell out of me. I made $2,000 in 2 weeks on a bank stock. I'm laughing at the bank.
Gene Munster thinks Citibank could double from here.
Great, then I'll buy it right now.
Gene Munster also thinks Tesla and Apple and Zillow have huge runs ahead of them.
Zillow, I mean, that's
Mike, you're still in that?
Of course.
Yeah, that's been acting great.
I did sell 25 shares today, though, at 151 and change.
Yeah, I've been thinking about how to handle that. It's just the gains are big now, and now I'm just like, am I at the point where I'm just going to look at this as like not a stock I'm going to really ever touch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great long-term holding. It can't hurt to take a little profits. I've kind of like wheel and dealed on the top of that where I'll add and get out of positions based on how it's acting. But long-term, I'm in at least 200 shares at all times.
Like they're buying up the Beyond Meat calls right now pretty hard.
Well, yeah, Taco Bell partnership. That's big. That's why Yum Brands is doing well. I mean, that's the thing with Beyond. It's a headline stock off of these big partnerships. There's a lot of momentum with that kind of a brand when you have a big partnership with a Taco Bell.
Look at Fubo here. Feels like it could really explode if it gets through 34.50.
Now we're talking. That 32.90 buy looks pretty sexy right now.
It really does.
All right. Well, seems like everyone's pumped up, and let's keep making money. Subscribe, Rolland Market Mashup, and we'll catch you next week.
Dad, you got anything else to add?
No, it's pretty much we were talking about everything today, right?
Yeah, we covered a lot of stuff. It was good. So.
And stop asking about Bitcoin as though it's hot air. It's just look at it like any investment. I've been hit up so many times. Oh, should I buy or sell Bitcoin here? What do you do with anything? What?
I sent you a solid article from UVA.
Dad, I can't wait for the day you actually grab what.
Dad, I skimmed over that for like 2 seconds and saw one sentence that made me think it was a bullish article, wasn't it?
It was a what?
Kind of a bullish article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to read it, Mike.
I did read it. Dad, I mean, yeah, the future of humanity is blockchain. If we want to, unless we're the last generation, maybe we're all going extinct. I believe on humanity, so I'm big on blockchain.
So, Dad, could anything make you ever look at Bitcoin as something different?
No, I think you got to look at it. You can't ignore it. But It's a big balloon right now.
No, Dad, it's not a balloon. When you understand the foundation, the fundamentals of the blockchain, you're going to see a new wave of startups. Listen to that podcast on scaling Ethereum I sent you guys.
Well, you know, some guy, I forget who said this, like some famous investor. I heard him say it, I think yesterday. Oh, no, not some famous investor. Dad, the guy that I tried playing you the video for that made that big $600 million call option bet the day after the election, who just randomly does these interviews and just runs a hedge fund and obviously kills it. He was like, and he's really funny actually, but they asked him about Bitcoin and he was like, I don't fucking know. At the end of the day, it's either going to 0 or 1 million. And I feel like the risk reward is, he's like the risk reward is he's like the risk reward is great if you look at it like that. He was like 0 or 1 million. So he's like, obviously I'm going to be in Bitcoin. Yeah, makes sense.
It makes sense till you say, what is it worth?
It's going to be worth a fucking ton.
Yeah, but at least you could buy a ton of gold. You can't buy
that again. What are you talking about? And then people have ever felt gold in their lives, have ever